Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special two-part Choctaw on Choctaw Stickball. Fellowship with Megan Baker. I'm off camera, but you can see everyone here today because we're in the office. So today's talk is titled Generations of Choctaw Stickball, Part 1. And we have Sue Folsom in the middle, Williston to the left, and Owen Williams to our right. Sue Folsom is the Executive Director of Cultural Services and has worked for Choctaw Nation for a very long time. Williston is a cultural demonstrator who works at Choctaw. Owen Williams is the chaplain and previously served as Choctaw Nation's Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. So every Labor Day, you can find them working hard to make sure the weekend is a success and it runs smoothly for our community members. Since we can't gather at Choctaw this year, as we usually do, we thought we would bring a little bit of Labor Day to those of you at home. So if you're unfamiliar with Labor Day, it's our annual festival where Choctaw community gathers. There are cultural demonstrations, social dancing, an art show, a powwow, a carnival, and it's capped off with the Chief State of the Union. I often think of Labor Day as a giant family reunion because so many of the Choctaws that I know from all over the country come together for this one weekend. One of the highlights of Labor Day is, of course, the Stickball tournament. For today's part 1 of our Choctaw on Choctaw Stickball, we wanted to share the history of how Stickball has been practiced here in Choctaw Nation and how it became a kind of national sport. So in the Indian Pioneer papers, there are a lot of kind of oral accounts about Choctaws and growing up in the old Choctaw Nation when we first kind of got here. And so there's interviews where people are talking about stickball games in Indian territories, but then for a while stickball became less common and less practiced. But so we're going to talk about kind of how we brought it back from those kinds of times. So that's kind of the intro. So now we're going to have some questions. So before we get into the history of stickball, it would be great if each of you could share a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And can you tell us a little bit what it was like growing up as a Choctaw when you were younger? So, who wants to go first?
Stu loves to go first.
Les did. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Bennington, Oklahoma. I'm still there at Bennington and probably will be there. You know, so I've raised all my kids there. My parents were Nelson and Samantha Williams, or Samantha Bob Williams. And I have 3 children, 2 of my own and one I adopted when she was 2, my great niece. So I have my oldest daughter, Shauna Marie, my youngest daughter, Sarah Marie, and then my son is Michael Bryan. So I have a total of 4 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchildren, child, I guess, grandson. Growing up in a Choctaw home, they spoke mostly Choctaw, but they wouldn't allow me and my younger brother to speak Choctaw. So we learned to speak English first, and that was kind of hard, you know, during that time to combine our sentences. You know, we'd have a little bit of Choctaw and finish it off with English, you know. But to me, you know, those are times to me that everybody says those are good memories. You know, we didn't have that much problems and issues like we do today. You know, we grew up having fun out in the yard and climbing trees and swinging, you know, whatever it is that, you know, kids do during that time. But it was a wonderful time there. Been in Bennington all my life, so I guess I'll be there when I'm gone, you know. spare me there. But that's about all I can share right now.
My name's Les Williston. I grew up over in Broken Bow, in McCurtain County, Adamville, all around there. The community I came from is Luke Fodder. And I grew up there back in the 60s and 70s. Things were pretty quiet until a lot of cultural activity started up, which was about that time. Things started coming back real good. It was back in the at the point Oklahoma became a state. A lot of the cultural activities and practices started to disappear. A lot of our culture had started to be lost at that point. And but after the Trail of Tears, there was a lot of cultural things going on. There's a lot of people playing stickball, and up into the 1930s and the 40s, there were pictures of Choctaws playing stickball. You know, but somehow through the 50s and early 60s, it was kind of waned a little bit, and then there was a cultural push. A lot more Choctaws that had begun going to college, begun getting better at organizing, and we started seeing more people come together. The Choctaw people, when I was growing up, we'd see large get-togethers, huge groups of Choctaws getting together, whether it's at church functions, singings, tribal functions, and also Hog Killing Day. I remember a whole yard full of full-blood Choctaws on Hog Killing Day. Whole yard full, cousins and everybody over there, and had butcher a bunch of hogs and do a lot of work that day. I was young then, so I had a lot more fun during that time than a lot of the older ones. But so when we come back, I came to Tuscaloosa about 2005. I get my centuries mixed up. So that's when we started working on getting together a Tuscaloosa team.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Owen Williams. I'm a Mississippi Choctaw. I was born and I was reared on a reservation in Mississippi, and Choctaw is my first language, and I'm still trying to learn English. So when I graduated from high school, I went to, at that time it was called Haskell Institute in Lawrence, Kansas, and that's where I met my wife. She's an Oklahoma Choctaw, and I tell people that I have my own personal Trail of Tears because she came and dragged me all the way to Oklahoma. So that's why I'm here. But yeah, you know, it's a lot of things to tell. But what's important is that when I first came here, it was kind of like a culture shock to be raised with mostly full-blood Choctaws with the old traditions and the old language, then to come up here and find our own brothers and sisters lacking a lot of their traditions, and they were weak in their pride of the culture because of time and things that happened. And so I think about that time when Sue and I used to talk about restoring our culture, and so that's how things began. And we had to learn to share culture, the Mississippi Choctaw, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and so that was the beginning. That we had to do something ourselves so that we could retain our heritage, our dignity, our pride as Choctaw people. And so it's been a long road and still a long way to go. ago, but we've progressed so much. And I think that if you see the films of how this developed, you can see the pride of the Choctaw through Stickball. And I'm sure you're going to ask us questions, so I'll reserve some answers for that.
Yeah.
But I'll stop there.
Okay, that's great. So actually, how did all of you kind of meet each other?
Like I said, he married this beautiful
Yeah.
Choctaw woman, and she's my cousin. That was one of the good things he did.
Yeah, one of the smart things.
Yeah.
So how did you guys each of you start to work for Choctaw Nation? What was your kind of journey that way?
It's been like 40 years plus that I started working for the tribe, but at the beginning I worked when I was 14, under that summer youth work program, they called it then, but so at that time you could be 14 and work. So I started working under that program for like 4 years until I graduated high school. But that, from there, I worked in different departments until I got to the cultural department, which is, like Owen said, one of the struggles that we felt like we were all lacking in. And so when Owen applied for the job, I thought, well, what a good connection to make, with our people from Mississippi who knows the story about Mississippi to come and, teach us the stories, share their stories of how it was to where it is today. So I thought it was a good idea to combine the two Choctaw families together through Mississippi to the Oklahoma Choctaw. And like you said, it had to be a big cultural shock for him here, because most of our people weren't speaking the language, and we had very little full-bloods who wanted us to speak, At home it's okay, but in my home it was, they would speak in Choctaw, but they made us answer in English, So, no, when he come, that's all, he could speak was Choctaw, and we learned from him a lot about where our ancestors come from,
So you hired Olin?
Yeah.
You want to talk
She
about that?
regretted it so many times.
That was my thinking, I have to have Olin working so that we can learn how it was, so we can teach our kids today, the history of where our ancestors came from, and how we're trying to revive it and sustain what we all know today. There he was working for the Okies.
You've been here for 24 years, I think, Choctaw Nation. And like she's talking about, that we had to step out and see what we could do about the language, and that's the program that I got in, because I could speak fluently and I could read and write the Choctaw language, so they hired me with the program. That's where I started. But there's so much yet to do, because we have a history of assimilation that, especially our older Choctaws, there's this fear of change, and they don't trust like, the young people may. So, but they're the ones holding the knowledge. They're the ones that's holding the tradition that we need. So it's a slow work, but it's something that I think that, Choctaw Nation is. And if you listen to Les, he'll be talking about the game of stickball and how he's helped develop young kids,
Well, Sue hired me too. Come to work, and we were talking. She hired me. We were talking about our history and our culture as well. But I was always interested in our history and our culture back before European contact, a little bit more of the wilder times, and I was really more into that stuff, so I came to work with the tribe, and I started out setting up table and displays with arrowheads and spear points, tomahawks and bows and stuff, and our weaponry, and our cultural displays have grown from that. Started getting a lot of other people, a lot of other stuff, showing kids, got younger kids that grew up, and now they're starting to get into flint knapping and all kinds of craft work like that. And they're studying more about it, and that's what I like to see. And that's where we started, when we started putting together this cultural center. Started way back then when you get all these kids together. We don't have any direction, don't have any guidance as to where they want to take their lives. This world that we live in right now, this world we live in today, it's a mess. It's a mess, and so we got to get back to our culture. Remember how our people always were. Anytime there was any kind of upheaval around the tribe or in the tribe, anything happens like that, the Choctaw's first instinct is to band together and hold on to each other. And we've done that quite a bit through the ages. Before, when the diseases were ravishing the South, going through tribe after tribe, killing off a lot of our people, we held it together. Our ancestors held it together, kept their tribe together, kept everybody focused on staying together and protecting each other. We come into stickball back then. It's also a sacred ceremony. It's our one medicine that we practice that. It's a unifier. It's a community builder, and that's my vision of it was when we got started with a stickball, was that we got to get our community meeting again, congregating again, getting close again. We don't have hog killing days too much anymore. So, but when we have a stickball game, even the last stickball game we had in Tuscaloosa, the field was lined up with powwow chairs and people in the stands, and these were all mostly Choctaw. And you had one family sitting next to each other that 10 years ago didn't have much to do with each other anymore. They knew each other, but they didn't have that much to do with each other. But now they're all out here, aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, sitting next to each other, next to another family who's all their cousins and stuff like that, sitting out there, and they're congregating and they're talking to each other, and you feel that sense of community coming back, and that's one thing that I was always really proud of, to look out there and see all these Choctaws get together, and family sitting next to family, and that's what I've always called Tuscaloosa, the team Tuscaloosa, is a family. We always wanted to teach you guys that we're not just here playing a game. This is our culture. This is our history. It's very important to us. It's also what binds us together as being one people. And when you look out through the crowd, you see all those Choctaws sitting next to each other out there, all talking, laughing, joking, kids running around making a mess. It's the way it should be. And so that's where I see the beginning of this as a stickball. We started this. Our first game in Mississippi was in 2009. That means it was about a month before that tournament. We got the okay to get a team together. So wrangled a bunch of people to get together and go play. And we were going to play that first game in Mississippi. 8 He didn't go too well. But we won. We didn't win the game. We didn't win the tournament, but we won because from that point on, you saw the pride in the boys' eyes. We lose bad, but they wear that jersey proudly. And then they know they're a part of something that's coming alive, something that belongs to them, something that they feel something for. And that was the beauty of it all, was the community and the pride that you saw exhibited.
That's great. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that first kind of game? How was Choctaw Nation involved at that point, or not yet, or?
I think prior to that, individual players would go to Mississippi and play on different teams. And so that's how they learned how to play stickball. But then they decided to come back and start talking about it. And since I was in the cultural department, they approached me about funding, and support in a department that would support them in establishing a team or creating a team of young men to play and compete, And like Les said, when they practice with pride. They practice with of who they are, and they know the reason, the history behind the stickball game, and I think maybe Owen could talk a little bit about the history of the game. But yeah, and when they came to me, and I said, well, I'll look for funds. You get a team practice, and I'll come watch, and if you're ready, So they said they were ready, and I said, are you sure you're ready? We're going to go and win this thing, right? But we didn't win. But that, like you said, that was in 2009, and then 2010, we had our own tournament at Tuskahoma. And so during Labor Day, so that was the first, and every year we've had the stickball tournament at Tuskahoma.
So it would have been 10 years this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did they have the stickball tournament in Mississippi? How long have they been doing that?
Many years, going back, as far as my memory serves me, stickball has changed a lot. When I was growing up, stickball was dying out in Mississippi because football, basketball come around, and we were just starting high school, and young kids love anything new, and so they laid down their stickball sticks and picked up the basketball, the football, and so it began to die out. And then you got to remember that at that time, the stickball that we see today was not the stickball back then. The stickball game back then, which is more like running, there was no goalie, there was no shooting as much. You just get the ball and run to the goal and try to score, just go through the, guards and any way you can, try to get it in there. So it was kind of a slow kind of game. It was still rough and everything, but it's not like it is today. And so, like I said, it began to die when, modern sports, come around. But I remember this man from Nashville, Tennessee. He had to work with RCA, unit in Tennessee, and he knew about technology, about video, things like that. So, and he was also an anthropologist. And anyway, he married one of the Choctaw girls, and he was interested in a revival of the game. so he used technology, and he got the video going, and now the Choctaw people began, hey, we can do this, and so it started rising up, but it was still the same old format of game until years later. Of course, at that time, our young people were playing football, and they were introduced to other sports, and so one of my classmates, he was born with a short arm, very short arm, and so he was very athletic, and he wanted to play any kind of sports that he could. So I remember him playing baseball, and he was a pitcher because that's the only position that he could play with just one arm, and he would tuck that glove under his little arm, and he would pitch with the arm, and then as soon as he releases the ball, he put the glove on for defense. He would adapt like that, so he decided he wanted to play stickball, but he was on a good team that year, and so the good team won the championship, and of course the losers sometimes they have a so attitude, so they said it's not a real game because you have a player that's not qualified to be a stickball player because he's Choctaw and everything, but he just got one arm. According to the rules, he has to have a stick in each hand. so there was a little squabble about that, but this guy he was determined that he wanted to play. So he came up with the idea. He'd been watching other sports, and they had goalies, and so he came up with the idea that why don't I just stand by the goal and protect with one, and that kind of opened their eyes. Said, hey, that might work. So from there, they realized with a goalie, they can't get in there and score like they used to. So now they started throwing from outside, and so that's the fast-paced stickball that you see because one man changed the whole deal. And so Choctaws are careful to evolve. They can evolve, but they make sure that it's done with honor and that they're not forced to, So that's how the stickball is today. And to me, I've watched a lot of field sports, a lot of Native American stickball. I think the Choctaw is the best stickball game they play because it's really a sport. It involves everything. It's a culmination of the human soul, And when a player gets out there, he's playing not just for himself, but for the history of his ancestors. He's playing for the pain at the Trail of Tears, and it means something to him. And so it's really not just a sport or game. It's something that is a culmination of years of sorrow and suffering and hardship and courage, and all that thing comes alive in a game. And so that's why it's like talking about the pride. That's what it's including. And so, we play, of course, like I said, we do evolve, so they make it where players don't get hurt, like he used to, working on that, but it's still, the concept of stickball is still the same. And so there's a lot that Choctaws can be proud of, and, when I go to Labor Day stickball, of course, we play at night, here, and, when you hear the players tap in their sticks, kind of like crickets in the night, and the it's kind of like music to a Choctaw, and the drummers, and the pageantry of stickball. And for a moment, a Choctaw becomes a sovereign person, he is Choctaw. And so it just kind of revives a resurgence of the old Choctaw and the new Choctaw and the new Choctaw, it's all in one. So you just have to be there, you just have to feel it, to understand.
I agree with Olin, my first stickball that the team went to Mississippi, and listening to the drum beat, the heart of the drum, and like you said, the sticks and our team walking on the field was so emotional that, it made you want to cry because I felt like I was home, and not ever been in Mississippi, but it was so comfortable, you know, just being there. And to see our team come out on the ground with a purpose, you know, they knew what they were there to do. And I think they also felt, you know, the reason why they were there. They were representing, you know, our team, our tribe, and they were, you know, playing against people that were from their, you know, may have been relatives, you don't know, because we all, like you said, come from Mississippi, and our ancestors did. I completely didn't. But, yeah, it was the most emotional thing I ever felt, you know, and if you haven't experienced that, you know, I think everybody should go and feel that, and you could feel it, you know, just like.
Yeah, Choctaws are not socially expressive, but in the game of stickball, like he was talking about, families talk, you share, they open up. Mm-hmm. And that's what stickball does, because that's the only thing that we have that's ours. And so you can sense it, you know, it's your property. And we own it, it's ours. And so like Stu is saying, that your emotion is stirred because memories and, you know, what your grandparents used to talk about comes alive. And so for a moment, you know, you go back in time and your psyche is activated, that this is who I am. And that's when people come and watch, because they're coming home. So for a moment, they're home. They forget about everyday problems. So it's therapeutic.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. It's, when like that first game when we played down there in Mississippi, you know, we're there in the tournament, and we're excited to be there. We're happy to go play the game. And when you walk out on that field for the very first time out there on that field with the whole team walking out there on that field, there's a lot more to the word pride than you know, just saying I'm proud of it. Man, there's a whole lot of emotion that comes in, boiling up because of that pride. And yeah, you do feel like, okay, this is where I belong. Right here in this point in time, in this universe, right here is where I belong. And Choctaw culture, especially the ancient culture, back in the ancient days, we had warriors who were 14, 15, 16 years old. A lot of our warriors who went out on war, and fight in war were young. It's because they're fearless. Because they're fearless and not scared of nothing. They never been hurt that bad. You get my age here, you kind of, you got uh-oh. You know, you got to look ahead a little bit. But the young ones who are fearless like that, they walked out there. I mean, they walk out there and they play in the youth leagues. You can see that pride in those kids when they're playing ball and they score or something like that. It builds up. And when they're old enough and they walk out on that field, they'll feel the connection between them, their ancestors. Like Owen said, you know, we're not out there we're usually not out there just playing for ourselves. We're out there, we're playing for our cousins and our grandmothers and our moms and uncles and stuff sitting on the sidelines watching. We're playing for our clans, our group, our extended family, that everybody that you grew up with. We're playing for our tribe, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And we're also playing for the Choctaws in Mississippi, Jenna, Louisiana, over in Alabama, all the kinfolk, all the bloodlines that goes back to millennia. That's so much a part of us. Those memories are in us. Those ancient games are in us. Those memories are in our genetic build-up. You know, it's all there. And when you get out there on that field to play in a serious tournament, you feel it all coming back up to you. It's a great feeling be a part of something so important to your history and your culture and your people. So, yeah, like I said, it's beautiful. And
Yeah, and you start with your young kids, you know, your children, teach them what that means, play stickball. I know our department goes to different schools and set up and teach them some cultural and history and storytelling, you know, everything that we can teach them about Choctaw people. And we went to this one school, and all of them was doing storytelling in one corner, and Jared and I think Billy or somebody was teaching stickball. And they taught them a little bit in the gym, then they were going to go outside and let them play a little bit. And so our little Indian kids, our little Choctaw kids, knew what that game was because they'd been to games and seen it. When we took it to the school, and the other kids were saying, "What's stickball?" You know, in their mind, probably they think you use a stick, and you have this ball. And then I could hear some of the little kids that are Choctaw that's been to a game, they said, "That's the stickball game. That's a Choctaw game. That's my sport." They were little, but they were already proud, that was their game. Nobody knows how to play that game but them, So I think they went outside and played a little bit, but, that's how our little kids learn to be proud, of the different cultures that we're teaching them, That was kind of funny.
So could you tell us a little bit about how you organize the tournament here in Oklahoma? Because you said you've gone to Mississippi and gone to those tournaments. So what was kind of the process? How did you get other teams to come here? And
Les and Pinky, I kind of put them in charge of organizing the tournament here because they've been several times and played with teams there to see how it was ran, how they ran the tournament. And you have scorekeepers, you have timers, people that keep up with penalties, So he might elaborate a little bit on that.
basically, it's pretty simple to put on a tournament. You got a few basic needs. You take care of that, and there's variations on everything. We set up our field, like on a football field. You got 300 yards between pole to pole. That's goal line to goal line on a football field. And our field like to have a little bit more of a backfield beyond that. As far as the width, it's just a little bit narrower than a regulation football field, high school and college football field. We put out the word that any teams who wants to sign up to come and play in the tournament. And our only limitations at the moment is how much time we have to play. But there's a lot of teams that want to come out and play ball. And so we've got enough players now. We could probably make 2 teams, but we're keeping it at 1, so we have 1 team in the tournament. And hopefully we're going to have at some point enough ball players all over Choctaw Nation to have several teams throughout Choctaw Nation that'll begin to practice and play. Then we can have our own tournaments between each other. And then there's the Alabama Coshawta tournament. We go down there every year. The Mississippi teams and the Choctaws have tournaments every so often too. And we used to go, but there used to be a lot of tournaments in Oklahoma, and I'm sure we're going to be more and more coming along.
I think at the beginning we had maybe 7 teams, and that was because they only play in the evening. It was after midnight before they would finish a game. And playing.
Announcer, yeah.
Yeah, I joked around a lot, and pardon me. Now, backing up a little bit, I know that, nobody notices it, but Sue has been the push for culture for years. And there will be times that she was the only voice. But now, here at Choctaw Nation, you could hear it from the top, from the chief of council on down, we talk about Choctaw spirit. It all comes because of this. It all because we stirred the spirit of Choctaw through a vehicle that is safe for sports, kabocha or stickball. And so tournaments, I think that they take different people with different skills. Like Les, he knows how to play and he knows how to organize. But it takes money, and so Sue's able to convince, people in the administration that, we need dollars to carry this out. So it becomes a group effort now. So, but to bring the spirit first, and then you see the need, and then when you see the little kids, their eyes big, this is mine, like this is mine, I need to learn it. We had a camp and kids just want to play, and we were short on sticks for a while, wasn't it? A lot of people, so anyway, that's how things are, and I forgot the question now. But if people would just stop and realize that this is a powerful thing, and that Choctaws have learned that, that's where sovereignty is, that we use what is ours and we make it profitable. And so I remember when the first 2-3 years of the tournament, I think the first tournament there wasn't that many people coming to watch, but the second one, everybody started coming in, and that's when you had to get bleachers and all that. But, people, catch on this quick because, like I said, it's filled with emotion and power and strength. And when you see the players, they get hit hard, but when they get up, they go right back into it. And then here come the women team. And the women are just maybe tougher than men sometimes. They play rougher sometimes. But, I used to go teach about stickball stories to the public schools. And, I guess because I'm older, sometimes I don't care what I say. But here, one of the white elementary teacher, and this is Western Oklahoma, and I know they like rodeo, and so I was teaching about, and I was showing a little clip about stickball, and show them how they tackle each other and everything. And she looked at it, ooh, seems like it's dangerous. I said, so is the rodeo, but you like it, because this is culture, the sport is, you like it, so we need to respect each other's sport, and, sometimes I get in trouble, I guess, because I believe that's true, that there is no one dominant culture or another. I believe that if we all understand each other, that, man is a social being. He's got to have a place where there's a culmination of him, of people, and that's what sports is. Whether it's football or stickball. And then, to me, stickball not only is a sport, but it's almost patriotic, because I watch veterans who's been in a war, who's maybe a leg missing, because of something from the war. Every time, the flag goes up, he stands and salutes. And it means something to him. The flag is a symbol of something that's been through. And I think that when the stickball is played, our old people sit there and watch the young people play, and it's like a flag, that it means something, that there's history, there's something alive, And so this is the thing that we want to bring, that we're not saying I want to compete with other cultures, but we say we want to be on the same table. And because stickball is just a sport just like any other sport. And so if we manage it well, I think it's here to stay. And I even challenged Stu. I said, one day, I wonder if Stickball could support itself financially. And it can, if we use this properly, and it's to become a symbol. And I even dreamed that maybe Oklahoma could be the central Stickball stadium. Because I mean this, but there's a lot of stories I could tell that sometimes we had trouble with local coaches. If a star native player is playing on his basketball team or football team at school, but that native player, he wants to play stickball, that coach would discourage him. If you play stickball, you can't play for me. So we still have obstacles like that we have to cross over. But I think that we got a good handle on what we got to do. And so you probably, tomorrow you probably hear the youth talk about this. But that's how it is. So tournaments is beginning, and I think that for the first couple of years, Mississippi Choctaw did not come up here, but they've been coming up here every Labor Day. Mm-hmm. They enjoy coming up here because I'm from there, and I listen to what they're saying. And at first, when they came up here to play, they thought, those Oklahoma Choctaws, they're easy to beat because they're just not beginning to learn. But the more they played, the more they respected us. But they're improving, they're getting better. And then when they come up here, they say, they're playing stickball, not just for the fun, but for the dignity that Mississippi have forgotten what it's for. Because there's more. They've had it so long that they've forgotten, and we bring in a freshness to stickball. So, but I think that, I don't know if anybody publicly, acknowledged Sue, but, I've watched her, I worked with her, and, she's sometimes the only voice in the wilderness, but, now you look around and there's a lot going on. So, now she's got a culture center that she's working with, so, she's, I hope that, she, one day when she leaves Choctaw Nation, that she's, proud of what she's done.
It's come a long ways since I started 15 years ago, and what soon lead us to where we're at now, as building a cultural center. We got stickball tournaments. We're doing a lot of cultural things going on. We have our crews that travel around to the other schools and teach Choctaw culture and Choctaw history. We go all over the country and do talks a lot of places. Bakersfield, one of them we go to every year, and that's what it's. I feel like our cultural services department has really done well. Just go out there and meet with people who are from other areas that don't know very much about Choctaw history or culture, and may have questions. And put the cultural services department out there to answer those questions. And there's only going to be more and more questions, because as it grows, stickball grows, some of the other aspects of our culture grows, and the pride grows. They'll be out there playing ball and talking about our history.
Yeah, I think the stickball league, the stickball game, has brought the relationship with Mississippi. I mean, we work with every department there now. Before we didn't. Maybe the chief talked a little bit, but now that we have a better communication with them, we help them, we teach them things that we didn't know how to do with our talented people. They teach us the things that they do that's very talented, especially in the basket making, We've sent our people there to learn from them. And that's one thing we didn't learn from Olin was how to make a basket. But they, it's us working with them that we have a real teaching us a lot of things now.
I don't know about that. So you guys kind of said this already, but what is something that you want to see for the next generation of Choctaws with stickball, or maybe just in general?
One of the questions that, is brought up is, how do we keep it Choctaw, because the more people get involved, the more complicated questions come up, because one of the things was when we needed sticks for the game, traditionally it takes several days to complete a good handmade sticks.
Mm-hmm.
But, in modern times you could artificially make sticks just like that. And so that's the question is should we keep that tradition, it's got to be just with handmade sticks, and not mass produced, that's another question. And then another one is how do you maintain, blood or genetics in the sport, because we have a lot of intermarriages now, so a lot of our players are not full blood, and some of the faster ones are the mixed blood, so will there be a time when we all, not Choctaw team, call it that Choctaw, or can a all white or all black team come in as long as they play our game? Can they call it stickball? Or do we have to have Indians on the team to be called? It's stuff like that they're going to have to learn and somehow keep our tradition, the main ingredient in it. So that's what I see in the future. But just because there's barriers, you shouldn't be afraid. We should find a way to solve, and maintain the dignity, the pride that we're talking about, So, anyway, that's what's in the pocket of my head when you ask the question.
I think, like Owen and Les were saying, about playing stickball. When we first tried to play stickball in Mississippi, they wouldn't let us play because they said we weren't Choctaw. And so I said, Les, and I don't know who else. I think Owen went to visit with the committee, and eventually the chief said, they're Choctaw, But it was that acceptance that we have to, kind of deal with too, because like you said, you're going to have, those that are half, and they may be half of another tribe, and that tribe, to them, the stickball game could be sacred that they don't play stickball. So, we've invited all 5 tribes. There's 2 of the tribes that it's a sacred game to them, but they don't participate. They don't do it publicly. And and one of the things they had mentioned too is that women aren't allowed to play, but he said, well, Choctaw's been playing, letting their women play for over 300 years or 200 years,
At least,
And so, and if they weren't playing, they're on the sideline, doing their duties and listening. And Owen can tell you what their duties were, They had little switches in their head, and they were...
You still do?
But they were cheering their guys on, Maybe that's where gambling came in. All that betting.
Yeah, that's like anything in sports, you get so involved, and they did do that, and but for the young people, I just want to encourage them to do what they have to do, because kind of like passing the, baton to them. We started them, we introduced it, and now it's going to be their game. And but, they were taught well, and, they'll keep the sport clean and, conditioning. So, just want to sit back and watch them.
Yeah, I believe that, I think, the youth will be okay. Keep them playing. We'll keep them playing long enough, keep them going, and they'll be coming up. Some start to make sticks, and keep that tradition going, and just keep bringing them together. Especially under like a tournament up there in Tuscaloosa, brings them all together, and all through their youth in the youth league, coming up through the youth league. Then they have their tournament. Then they come and watch the men's and women's play, and so they know where they're going. They know what they want to do. They want to be in a tournament one day and play out there. Whether you're a boy or a girl, doesn't matter. Like Sue said, the Choctaws always had women playing stickball, and some tribes don't allow it, or some ceremonial grounds don't like it, like the players playing out off any place else but on the ceremonial ground. So they kind of keep them from playing. But some of them come over and play ball in one of the teams. But then we consider it our own sacred ceremony. When you have to play it for your ancestors, for the Creator, for your clans, for your children, for your elders. It's a ceremony in itself. Get out there and play ball. And that's one part of the discipline of the game is you get out there, and it's an emotional game. It's physical, which brings in emotion, and you bring everybody up all in 1 minute. You can have an exhilaration. You can have disappointment and any range of emotions within a split second. You have all those emotions right in a split second, and so it is an emotional game. When it's over, and you're tired, and you're probably bleeding, and you've had those emotions for an hour long of a train wreck you've been through. And what do you feel? You feel great. You feel great. You feel it's all worth it. It's all worth it. It's all worth the pain, all the anguish. It's all worth it. When the game's over and everybody's happy. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You're gonna win or you're gonna lose, now or later. So it really, it's not that big of a deal. But getting out there, being a part of your culture, being something that you're showing your children, and you're teaching your children their culture and something that belongs to them. Give them something that they can hold on to, something they can save themselves for, something they can thrive for, something they aim high at. That's what it. I think that's the future. I think that's what it looks like, and I think they'll keep it going. We got fields all over Choctaw Nation, and we just got to keep them practicing, keep them playing, and I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, whether it's stickball or whatever it could be, it all starts in the home. And you have to keep it going in your home, in the community, whether it's, like I said, stickball, or if it's our Choctaw songs, or if it's our dancing, if it's our sports, and it has to be taught by our elders, So, and that's who they listen to, is our elders. So it's good that I think those, like Les says, those young people, and you'll talk to them tomorrow really how it makes them feel when they play the game. You know, they're the one out there getting hit and, you know, playing the games and all, so they're the one that's going to have the experience of the emotion, the feeling, you know, and did it hurt? Yeah. So I'll let Owen close it out unless you have more questions.
You got some more questions?
Well, I was going to ask, do you want to share your favorite stickball memory?
I think I did when I shared what my first game in Mississippi was, you know. It was just like I said, I felt like I was home, you know. I felt like I was going back home. You know, I felt like I was left on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma, and I made it back, you know. I could just see my ancestors maybe feeling the same thing that they were for them, and, you know, through me, I was home for them, you know.
Go ahead, Les.
Well, for me, I have a lot of memories and a lot of great memories. One probably sticks out when I walked out on the field.
Broke your leg.
Stuck my toe, fell down. No, I walked out on the field and I looked around at our tournament in Tuscaloosa. Looked around and seen all the Choctaws all around the ring, sitting in their chairs and all over the place, and then the players taking the field, getting out there and starting to warm up, and a whole bunch of them getting together. Then fixing to start get together on those lines and start walking past each other in the middle of the field, and walking with them through that and looking at all them boys and all them players and all the people on the sideline. I think there was a moment of pride there that really hit home. I mean, really, I said, well, now we've got our tournament in Oklahoma, Choctaw tournament in Oklahoma. We got this going. We'll have to keep it going, and so every year, you know, I see the Mississippi teams come in, they show up, and all the people show up to play ball. All the people show up wanting to play ball. I had to tell some of them, no, you can't play. You can't. I ain't gonna put you on the team, you know. And but that's for their sake. I don't want they'll get out there and get hurt, and they just want to get a shirt and play. That, you know, they think it's like an exhibition. It don't work that way. We want experienced ball players to get out there in the field, so that, you know, the ones that know how to protect themselves. Because you can get hurt. You can get hurt pretty easy out there. And but those memories like that, when I get when I get to see all the people show up, and then wanting to see his tournament, ready to see a tournament. And when that tournament's going on, and it's getting toward the end of the game, and there's 1 point difference in the score, and everybody's screaming and hollering all over the field, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time. It's a good day to be Choctaw. It's those kind of memories like that I like, and we're just going to continue.
I guess the one that I'm thinking about is the first time that Oklahoma went down to Mississippi to play in their tournament. Because I'm Mississippi Choctaw, but I'm working for Oklahoma Choctaw, so I didn't know how to take it because, you know, I knew that they were going to play against each other. Everybody said, which side are you going to be on? And then my wife's Oklahoma, and I'm Mississippi, so I didn't know which side I was going to be on. And I didn't know how it was going to be, but I watched them prepare here. Of course, I know, you know, in Mississippi, they've been playing forever, so they were very experienced. And I watched them play, you know, over here, and they were just learning. They were getting good, but, you know, it took time, and I heard from my relatives that, you know, we're going to beat you, we're going to, you know, talk it up like that. I said, well, okay, you know, you never know. So, but I like the way Oklahoma did, because they went in style. They had this big bus, you know, and they come out, boy, Mississippi Choctaw Birds, they was like, wow, boy, they're coming in style. They had a big old bus full out there, you know, and they come out and they all, and when they walked into the playing field, the chief was walking with them, and the drum going on, and boy, they were just stirred, you know, about it, like, you know, and I watched both of them. I wasn't taking side because, hey, all of a sudden I realized we're one. Mm-hmm. It's just that we hadn't seen each other for so long. And so, well, yeah, they did beat us. Mississippi did beat us, but I don't remember the score because I think that I think that night, nobody lost and nobody won, I think. Two Choctaw groups realized that they're one and the same. And I think that the score showed that they beat us, but I think we won their respect and their admiration that we did so much to go down there, you know, and reverse the process that the Trail of Tears had done, that, you know, they've come home. And so that relationship built up like Steve was talking about. And so now Mississippi knows that they're telling, you know, to be honest, they said that they're getting better. Oklahoma is getting better. So one of these days they're going to beat us. And I think they're afraid of that, you know. But it's the fact that when you're watching a stickball game, and if you get the Choctaw spirit, you're just rooting for the game itself, not so much the team, but the game itself. That it's played with fervor and determination and with guts, and you know, because this is ours. And you know, like we talked about, they have adopted changes. They have to, because we're playing in the nighttime now, under the lights. You know, so I remember the old days when we started playing under the lights. We still played with regular balls, the 10, you know, high, you know. In the night, when the ball goes to, you could see it. So they went to the orange fluorescent ball, you know. That made a difference, you know. So we do adapt minor things to make it better. And so I think that the game of stickball is going to get better. And the players are more athletic now. They're faster. Everything is faster. And so with technology, we have drones, you know, some places don't allow it, but we have cameras everywhere now, you know, so we can broadcast it better, and, you know, so there's a lot of things that at our disposal that we can do to expand, you know, the spirit that we're talking about. It's not a arrogant pride. It's kind of just like a humble Choctaw pride, but it's deep. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're searching for, because that's what, you know, history almost killed from us, was that deep dignity, that pride, just being a human being, that you could have. So that night that the game is played, I'm standing watching, you know, when that the story about the drum, you know, the beat of the drum is the heartbeat of a mom. And so when a baby is inside the mother's womb, that's the heartbeat that he listens all, you know. And so when he hears the drum, it reminds him of mom, you know, the maternal thing. And so when I watch the night game, it's just like the night, the darkness is like the womb, and the light is like the little womb that we. So for that moment, the Choctaw is in the womb of the you know, what's theirs. And so they're just being Choctaws and having fun and, you know, displaying their skills and courage and everything, honor, everything that is within man, it comes out. So, but tomorrow, they go back to the, you know, jobs, whether they're doctors. Some of them are professionals, all kind of different levels of workers are out there playing. So for that night, for that moment, everybody's one, playing stickball. So that's the fun, you know. There's no one star, you know. I used to be a one, but I'm not playing no more. So, no, I never was good at, I was just good looking, that's all. I was a good looking Choctaw with no skills. That's what I am. But I appreciate you asking me part of it, to be part of this panel, you know, but these two are the ones that should be credited. I was just here just kind of for suggestions and things like that, so.
You brought a lot to it. I learned so much more. Yeah, I thought it was really great. I think we might have a couple of questions that people typed in, so I'm going to read that, and then you guys can answer it. Okay. So, Halito, Yakoki, for sharing your time and knowledge. I was able to play with Touch-Tahoma Ohoyo last year, and I now live in Seattle. There are some Choctaws out here, and before COVID, I was helping some people learn. Do you have any suggestions, advice, or guidance about, I guess, that team out there and how, what they can do? Yeah. So I guess if you're not in Oklahoma, how else can you carry on the practice of stickball?
Well, we have to get a few people together who know some about playing. Just get out and start practicing. Get out and start practicing somewhere, and keep the word out there that you're Choctaws and you play stickball. Some creeks play stickball. Most of the southeastern tribes play stickball. So you've got other tribes out there that might know something about it, or if they don't want to know, it's your opportunity to teach. And just keep the word out there that you're going to be playing stickball and having practices, and hopefully there'll be more people show up to want to play.
Yeah, and I think we have films on our website now that teaches the basic stickball for youth and adults, and they can even watch some of the games, on YouTube, I guess.
Practice picking up that ball fast as you can and throwing it, aiming for the post, and catch it.
I think what Les is saying is important because, it's the speed, stickball has changed. And so, I watch, young people, and they are fast. They can pick up the ball and throw it, Sometimes they throw it up while jumping up in the air and, stuff like that. So when you start in, you need to keep on practicing because it has elevated to a very high, skill level. And so I don't know. I think a lot, and I think sometimes that, for Choctaws out in the, cities, if they don't have a team, I know that it takes a lot of money, but it'd be good if they could come down here and be trained, by, less people that already actually knows, the game. But that's wishful thinking sometimes.
Sounds good. So that was the only question that we have. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close for today? No?
Thank you, and I appreciate you, sharing our culture. For those that are, can see us, I'm glad they didn't ask very many questions.
That's why we kept on talking, because we didn't want to.
I didn't want to run out the time for questions. Okay, then I guess this would be a perfect way to kind of close. So thank you, everyone, for coming today. I know Les came all the way from Tuskahoma, and so it was really great to have you kind of all here. So tomorrow, we will have the second part of our Generations of Stickball Sholi. We'll be joined by Brenner Billy, J.J. Jacob, and Jared Tom, who are carrying on the legacy of sharing stickballs with our people. So that's going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So hopefully those of you at home can tune in and join us then. Keep the everyone.